My name is Rebecca Rubin Seligson. I'm originally from New York. I made Aliyah in July 2014 in the middle of our last war of Tsukete, or one of the wars in the past. There have been a number between. But we made Aliyah in the middle of Tsuketan. There was actually a siren at the airport while we were there on our Aliyah flight. We had made Aliyah with Nefesh B'Nefesh, and they are an organization that helps people move to Israel, and they have a big charter flight twice a year. I think they're usually during the summer, and they're big parties. You land at the airport and everyone's there with flags, and it's this amazing experience that we didn't get to have because of the war and because of rockets and sirens. And they hustled us out of the airport as fast as possible. We were actually one of the first ones. It was just me and my husband at the time. I have 2 kids now. But so they hustled us out of the airport, and 5 minutes after we left, there was a siren. We were the first couple out, so we actually missed it, thankfully. And yeah, I have a bachelor's in early childhood education from Stern College in Manhattan, and a master's to be a literacy specialist from Columbia University. Not really the world's most best well-known university these days. But at the time it was nice and high ranking up there. So I loved what I did. As a literacy specialist, my favorite thing to do was to critique children's literature, to see what was qualified as a good children's book, not good children's book, how to help create curriculum for schools that was infused with literacy and reading and writing. And so we moved to Israel. I started off teaching English. I didn't particularly enjoy teaching English because I don't like the grammar. They like the grammar. I don't like grammar. I don't do grammar. I still can't do grammar. But they want you to teach English. That's Israel's biggest thing, is to teach English. They want native English speakers. And I did it, and I didn't enjoy it at all. And then my son was born here in Israel, and due to medical malpractice during his delivery, he was born with cerebral palsy, due to lack of oxygen to his brain. And so now he has cerebral palsy. He uses an electric wheelchair. He is completely cognitively totally fine. He's 10 years old. He's completely bilingual, Hebrew, English. He can do math at a higher level than I can. But he does use a wheelchair, and his speech is difficult to understand. And so one of the things that I noticed was that there was a severe lack of good quality children's books that had disability representation. There were a lot of kids' books out there that taught about disability, but not so much that it was just there as a part of life, as a part of the story, without it being addressed in like a teachy way. And I was thinking to myself that a lot of times when kids pick out books to read with their kids and with their parents, they want fun, enjoyable books. There are obviously kids who love nonfiction books, and that's a very niche group of readers. But for the most part, kids who want to read with their parents want a cozy up, fun, happy, enjoyable story. And I realized that disability representation was severely lacking in that kind of a storybook. And when my son was born, and in the years following, a number of people went up to me and approached me. You should write, you should write, you should write. I think most people had intended that I would write something for adults and for parents, but I didn't feel like I had the authority to do that. I'm like, I have my own lived experience, but my only experience was however many years, 3, 4, 5 years. And I didn't feel like I was an authority figure to be writing on such a deep, intense topic. I'm like, but I do know kids' books. That I do know. That I can write. And so I took what I noticed was this lacking and created my own set of children's books. I have 2. I put out 2 so far, 2.5. I actually co-published another one. The first one is, sorry if it's backwards, The Adventures of Incrediwheels and Triple S, The Mysterious Missing Book. And the second one is same characters, but The Lemonade League. And so the 2 main characters are siblings. They're based off my son and my daughter. And I really wanted to get into this, but I was very picky about it because I knew what messages I wanted to send. And I was also very picky about the illustrations, because I know that in order to hook kids in and to grab kids in, the illustrations need to be good illustrations. And I was nervous with traditional publishing. The way that it works for children's book authors is the author doesn't get to pick the illustrator who you work with. The publisher picks, and that's kind of, you toss the manuscript in their hands and hope for the best. And I didn't want to do that. So I decided to self-publish. And the world of self-publishing is pretty much solely based on social media. That's where you get a lot of your customers, a lot of your push, a lot of your advertisement comes through social media. And personally, I was terrified of having to get into that, because social media is a scary place. It's very judgmental, a lot of keyboard warriors, a lot of people who have opinions that aren't so nice. And I didn't exactly, at the time, I didn't have the thickest skin. Now I can say that I do, but at the time, I took things very personally, especially if it was something directed towards my children. And I'm like, I can't put this out there. I can't do it. So I started building up my account as a disability advocacy through children's literature. And as I was kind of getting myself together, I was writing the book and publishing the book and getting myself out there. And I was very surprisingly pleased with the community that I had actually built for myself around the book. I found a great group of independent writers, a great group of supportive people, disability advocates, kidlit activists. I was so pleasantly surprised. And one of the things that I peg myself on is that my page is completely authentic. Everything is drawn from our own personal experiences and our own personal lives. I don't curate anything. I don't have a content creator. I believe in 100% complete authenticity. So everything that I was putting out there was what was going on in our lives. And I also don't believe in using my children as like advertisements, kind of. There are a lot of disability advocates, there are a lot of kidlit authors and everything who use their children, and everybody who does that makes their own personal choice. It's my first day of school. I'm proud of them. That one I shared. But I don't like using my kids as the face of my brand, so to speak. So when October 7th came along, I was terrified, because a lot of my target market and a lot of my audience and a lot of the people that I work with are far leaning left. And that was where all the anti-Semitism was coming from at first. And I was being pushed out of spaces where I was trying to insert myself. And I was seeing disability advocates and kidlit activists posting anti-Semitic blood libels and fundraisers for Gaza and kidlit for Gaza. And I'm like, but what about us? And I see all the lies that were being shared and everything that was being shared. And I got to the point where I couldn't stay quiet, because I see what people in my community are seeing, what my online community is seeing, and I can't let that be the only thing that they're seeing. I can't. So my stories became a place where I was sharing news and everything that's going on about, unfortunately, what's happening in Israel and the anti-Semitism that's happening globally. Specifically, a lot of what I was sharing were things like, I don't know how many of you are aware of Miss Rachel, of the children's YouTube star who has gone gung ho jihadi, and just trying to get out there people who claim to care about children who are veiling their activism, their anti-Semitism and activism, because that's what this whole thing has been branded on. This whole thing has been branded on human rights and social justice and likes and clicks and shares. And I was really struggling with the dichotomy of sharing my own stuff and sharing Israel, because I had to, someone had to. And I lost a lot of followers, which I could not care less about. I was never here for the followers. I was never in it for the followers, and that was fine with me. I lost a couple of collaborations, which was also fine. Not really, didn't feel good, but I don't care. there was one organization that I was really working on getting a collaboration that I really wanted. And she had posted, I remember October 7th happened, and she posted, I know I don't know a lot about what's going on, but poor Gaza. And I reached out to her privately and I said, can we have a discussion about this? I said, here's some facts. Here are some great accounts to follow to get some information if you don't know. And they're balanced accounts. They're not necessarily like the super right Israeli. They're very middle ground, a little bit more left leaning, because I know that that's where you're leaning. And I was just completely shut down. And okay, it is what it is. My son actually lost a collaboration we were working on. You actually just shared it. I did not saying he lost it, but there was an organization that you just shared on that post called Voice It, which is a speech recognition software. It's Israeli and US based. And my son had filmed a commercial with them. And it had connected Israel with the New York Rangers. I didn't connect Israel, but it was very clear that we were in Israel, and my son was wearing a kippah, so it's clear that he was Jewish. It was supposed to be broadcasted and promoted post October 7th, and then October 7th happened. And I'm not saying it's because of it, because nobody ever explicitly said anything about it, but it was quietly released on YouTube instead of being promoted in the way that we were told that it was going to be. But you know what? I don't want to target on his back either sometimes, if that's what's going to happen. And so post October 7th, I was personally struggling with my own books because I was working on book number 2. I was working on my second book right around October 7th. And I was struggling with promoting the book and sharing the book. And I'm like, how am I making this about me when this is what's going on? We're having sirens. Our neighbors are being called to war. I'm busy making meals for my neighbors because everyone's husbands are gone and they have to take care of their kids. How do I make this about me? How am I posting about myself? And I decided that I was going to infuse my second book with October 7th Israel. And the way that I did that, so first, both of my books have main characters, Z and Nina, and then they each have a secondary character who has a disability also. So the first book, the character is blind. So that's Zoe, she's blind. And the second character is Elon, and he has a prosthetic leg. So that disability was inspired by all of the Israeli soldiers who you see coming back from war, who are missing limbs, and you see the strength that they have. And it was just, I'm like, this character is for them. Secondly, the dedication, I'll share it, but I'll read it so that way you can see it. But the dedication in the second book reads, this book is dedicated to all of our October 7th victims and heroes, to our heroes protecting us from above, to our heroes that live among us and who have sacrificed so much, our soldiers, police officers, security guards, medical staff, mothers, fathers, children, business owners, volunteers, fundraisers, Jewish family and friends outside of Israel, and to our non-Jewish allies standing beside us. Thank you for filling the world with real-life superhero good deed doers. Because in my book, the whole thing is they're superhero good deed doers. So everyone who has jumped on our cause since is considered, in my book, a superhero good deed doer. And additionally, the character with the prosthetic leg, his name is Elon. And the way that name came about was I decided to hold an Instagram contest to name the character in the book. And it was a good deed doing contest where people did good deeds and they shared them. And then the winner of that got to choose the name. So the name Elon was for the winner's grandmother. Her name was Ilana. So they chose Elon. So I decided the only way that I can promote this book and I can build this book is with my October 7th heart in it. And so that's where that went. Living in Israel during this time has been quite the experience. As we say in Israel, it's quite the chavaya. We're lucky enough that we have a bomb shelter in our apartment. We don't have to worry about, my son is in a wheelchair, so we don't have to worry about carrying him down the stairs in the middle of the night or anything like that, as so many people do. And the main thing that I've had to worry about was if he had to deal with a siren while he was on the way to school, because we live in a city called Modi'in, and he goes to school in Jerusalem, which is about 45 minutes away. And if there's a siren while you're on the road, you're supposed to get out of the car and like duck for cover. But he's on a bus with 5 or 6 other kids, all of whom have disabilities, all of whom or some of whom are in wheelchairs. And there's one aide on the bus. So if there's a siren, and you have 90 seconds to do it. So if there's an aide on the bus, there's no way that the aide and the driver can get out 4, 5, 6 kids with disabilities out on the side of the road and then cover them with, that was the only thing that I was ever nervous about. And thankfully that until now, Blan Hara, knock on wood, has never happened. But I have to say that as crazy as it's been being here and living under the sirens and the rockets and having to hop out of other international meetings thanks to sirens and everything, I just feel so blessed to be living here because the community and the people that are here with us, everyone's feeling the same thing. And the collective unity and the collective heart that we all feel is just, there's no other way that we'd be able to carry through without it. And there's nothing like living in a place where everyone has each other's backs. And you know that everyone has each other's backs. And I think that has been the biggest comfort for probably everyone. Everyone's communities are helping each other. The cities, the municipalities themselves have assistance programs. And just the general, just you walk down the street and you see all the signs and the ribbons and you see that posters aren't ripped down and you don't see graffiti. Maybe you do, depending on where you are. But for the most part, you don't. For the most part, you don't. You see graffiti like bring them home. Why are they still there? And it's just, there's nothing like it. The unity is just, it's the way that carries us through. And yeah, that's kind of my story.